you know that the things that you study at this university is very applicable in the real world.
One of the things that surprised me when I started DTU is how much they focused on group work and how much that work is geared towards the industry.
At DTU, there's an open door policy, which means that if you come across any problem or issue, you just knock upon the professor's door and they'll be always very glad to help you with your expert guidance.
You can even call them by the first names, and that evens the playing field.
I think I've been very lucky with the people who have been advising me. They are at the top of their field. They are the guys to go and ask, but also they are not full of themselves. They know they don't know everything, and that's why we are researching and working together.
Having my master's at DTU really prepares for my PhD study because it teaches me how to learn new things very quickly.
You kind of are thrown out of your comfort zone to learn, to meet people, to network, be confident, and there's always new things to learn under the sun.
Okay, great. Well, that was already a good intro to the webinar that you joined to hear more about this program, the programs in engineering. Hello from my side, my name is Luc Mulling, and I will be the moderator of today. And you joined to hear more about the journey that maybe you can go through by studying a master at the Technical University of Denmark. Before we go over to them and to the presenters that we have lined up for you, I will briefly explain some interactive options that we have. So first of all, I already saw some people said where you're logging in from in the chat, so that's great. Please do so, let us know. Also, you can write your questions through the panel called questions. Please do it there because then we make sure we don't miss any questions. I will also be asking some questions to you. I will open up some couple of pollings. So they will be throughout the session popping up there as well. And last but not least, we also have a little, what I like to call a fun button at the bottom of the screen. We have a button called, that's for emoticons, so you can give reactions as well. And let us know a little bit more about your reaction if you liked it or not. So that's at the bottom. Now, without further ado, let's go over to the presenters that we have lined up for you, and they will introduce themselves. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Clara. I work in the DTU Career Center, and I'm going to talk a little bit later about what we offer in the DTU Career Center if you start to your studies here at DTU.
Hello everyone, it's lovely to meet you. My name is Sinia and I work in the International Admissions Office, and I will be here to answer any questions you might have about admissions after the presentations. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Monse Gamboa and I'm an international student from Mexico. I've been studying here in Denmark for over a year, so I'm here to give more about my perspective and how it's it to live in Denmark.
Yes, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are right now. So my name is Ollie Westby. I work with international admissions and recruitment here at DTU, and I will be talking about DTU and Denmark, and hopefully make you more interested in our university. Yes, so first of all, I'm really excited to be here today. I'm excited to be able to talk about DTU, excited to be talking about Denmark, but I'm also excited for you actually, because now it means that you actually have the opportunity to enroll into one of the world's top international universities in engineering and technical sciences. But before I start talking about DTU, one of the things that I would like to say is, of course, welcome to Denmark. So Denmark, we are the land of Vikings. Though we are not Vikings anymore, so we kind of threw away the pillaging and decided to start building Legos and eating Danish pastries instead. So we're quite a small country. We have about 5.9 million people, with Copenhagen as its capital city. So even though we're a small country, we're a very diverse country. We have people from literally all over the world, which makes Denmark a really vibrant and, yeah, a really inclusive place to live. So Denmark, again, is famous for its beautiful landscape. We have a lot of sandy villages. We have small, charming villages. But one of the things that is really important to mention is our commitment to sustainability and the green energy, which has made Denmark into actually a global leader when it comes to environmental initiatives. So you will hear the word sustainability a lot during this presentation as well. So here are some of the topics that we're going to cover today. I'll be speaking a little bit about Denmark, what it means to be an international in Denmark. I'll be speaking about DTU and the programs we have here. Then I will be leaving the word over to my colleague Clara. That will be talking about the Career Center. And then after that, we will have Monse talking about how it is from a student's point of view. And then we will kind of wrap it up with why we think you should choose DTU and the cost and the fees and all of the procedures around application. And then we will just finish off with Q&A. All right. So first of all, I would like to start with some fun facts about Denmark. And of course, the first one has to be Legos, right? So if you didn't know this, Lego is actually from Denmark. It was founded in 1932. And the word Lego, if you didn't know this, and this is a good thing to know if you ever have some kind of geographical quiz, is that Lego comes from the Danish phrase leg godt, which means play well. Denmark is often, if not always, ranked among the happiest countries in the world. If you like fairy tales, you might have heard, fairy tales like The Little Mermaid, The Ugly Duckling, The Emperor's New Clothes, The Princess and the Pea. And actually, these are all fairy tales from Denmark. You might be loving the sea. You might be living close to the sea. You might worry that, when you travel abroad, you might not be living close to the sea. Well, the good thing about studying in Denmark is that no matter where in Denmark you live, you won't be further away than 52 kilometers away. So you will always find a possibility to go to the sea if you really want to. However, I cannot promise you that the water will be warm enough to swim in all year around, because winters can be a little bit colder than you might be used to. Yes, so being an international in Denmark. Well, the first thing to mention is, of course, we are the happiest people on the planet. And why is that? Well, I think and I believe that it has to do with the work and life balance that we really value here in Denmark. So we do know how to work hard, but we also know how to play hard. And that is something that is really important, and that I believe does make us the happiest people on this planet. I believe we are quite friendly people. There's not really any language barrier. Our English level I would say, is quite high. And you would survive really well with not knowing how to speak Danish in Denmark. However, of course, I would always suggest that when you do move to another country, regardless of what country it is, if they have a local language, learn it, because of course you will be able to become a part of that society in a whole different way. We have we have high tax rates in Denmark, and I know it might sound scary, but it does provide us with a lot of benefits. So, we have good welfare society, we have really good infrastructure, high standards of living, free education and healthcare, and a really safe environment. Denmark is known for innovation, technological achievements, modern architecture and design. So I think you might probably have heard about Scandinavian design. So Scandinavian design is, of course, Scandinavian design, but in fact, it's more or less Danish design, because that's where the Scandinavian design comes from. It's that kind of sleek, calm down design that makes you just feel comfortable, right? And when it comes to safety, Denmark has actually one of the lowest crime rates in the world. And I know a lot of you are thinking about studying for your master's, so you're probably already, young adults. But of course, I believe that you must have family members that are worrying about you going abroad, maybe because of safety, but then you can tell them, it's fine, it's totally fine. I'm going to Denmark. It has literally one of the lowest crime rates in the world, right? So it's always good to have. Another good thing about Denmark, it is that we are placed really well in Europe. We're a part of Scandinavia, we're a part of the Nordics, and we're also part of Europe and North Europe. So, which means that we are a hub where you literally can go anywhere you want. And so let's say that, yeah, you have a weekend off. What do you want to do? You want to go shopping in London? Sure, why not? It's less than 2 hours away. You want to go skiing in Oslo? It's only an hour away. It's fine. You want to go to Berlin? Takes you an hour. You want to go and have French food in Paris? It takes you less than 2 hours. So we are really, really placed very central in Europe. And another thing that you might not know is that Copenhagen is actually directly connected to the third biggest city in Sweden, Malmö, and we're actually just connected by a bridge. So you can jump on a train, and within 30 minutes, you are in the third biggest city in Sweden. All right, so welcome to DTU. I'll be speaking a little bit more about DTU and what it is that we offer. So the study programs for international students. I know that we might have some high school students here today as well. I won't go too much into details about our bachelor degree, but it is important to know that we do have one Bachelor of Science in General Engineering, which is a 3-year degree where you will have 180 ECTS. We offer about 32 master programs. These are 2-year programs. You will have 120 ECTS. You have the possibility to do an honors track, and also you could do a semester abroad as well if you would want to. We do also have joint international programs where you get to study at 2 different universities if you're interested in that. And the last one here, which I think is really, really important to say, is that all of our programs are taught in English. So you don't need to worry about having to do a thesis in Danish or anything like that. It is in English, so you will be totally fine. And as said, we have about 32 master programs here at DTU, and we really do cover a broad selection of programs. So we have everything from like applied chemistry, wind energy, food technology. We have ocean engineering. We have civil engineering. We have biomedical engineering. We really cover so many different aspects when it comes to technology and engineering. So if that is your interest, then you will for sure find something that will suit you. Looking at a little bit of numbers, these are the numbers from last year, then when we had 15,245 students all in total from 107 different countries. So that is quite a broad variety of nationalities in our university. 33% were female, and we're always working to make that number higher. When it comes to master students, we had 5,725 students, whereas 2,766 are international master students, which means that approximately 48% of all of our students on a master's level are international students. So it is indeed a very international environment. When it comes to ranking, I'll just mention a few of them. When it comes to the QS World University ranking, we are currently ranking 109, which I would say is quite well for a more or less pure technological engineering university. And when it comes to Times Higher Education, that just came out a few days ago, we have even gone higher up on the list, and we are now 124. Another one that we are really proud of here at DTU is the NG rank, which is an EU ranking, which we are ranking number 1. So we are very proud about that. So yeah, when you are a student here at DTU, you will get hands-on access to world-class research facilities. Here you can see a picture from one of our research facilities. Another thing that is important to mention, and as I mentioned earlier as well, is sustainability. So sustainability, innovation, and entrepreneurship is something that is integrated into all of our study programs. It's integrated into our mandatory courses, and it's integrated into our elective courses as well, because these are like the three very important pillars for us when it comes to study at DTU. Another thing that I would say is a strong point here at DTU is that we do simulate individual and collaborative learning. So what does that mean? It means that you will have a lot of opportunity to develop on an individual plan. You will have a lot of freedom as well to kind of build your own classes and build your own study schedule and stuff like this. But we are also a very collaborative university. So we have a lot of project-based learning, and you will kind of learn how to work with your classmates as well. Because when you have both the individual development and the collaborative development, that will make you, in the end, a global engineer, which is something that is really important for us. So a few pictures from our campus. Once again, I think here you can kind of see what I mean about this Scandinavian design of being clean and sleek and nice colors. So also the picture in the bottom here is from our Lyngby campus, which is just outside of where we're sitting. And this is also where you would find students during the summer months are sitting out here on the fields and having their lunches and just enjoying the sun. Another part that I want to show is one of our newly renovated buildings that were just completed a few weeks ago, actually. But once again, here you can see that we're using natural colors, very toned down colors, and just to promote a calm, and I would say it's kind of zen, right? It makes you feel calm and make you be able to focus on your studies. And with that, I would actually like to give the word over to my colleague, Clara. Clara, thank you.
Hi, everybody. And thanks for the nice presentation so far. As mentioned before, I'm Clara from the DTU Career Center. And I'm going to talk a little bit about first facts and figures, what to expect if you start to study here at DTU, and how your prospects are. And afterwards, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we offer here at the DTU Career Center. So first of all, staying in Denmark. It turns out that actually a lot of our international graduates, more or less around 70 to 65%, choose to stay in Denmark after graduation. And that's not necessarily because they decided that beforehand, but as Ollie mentioned earlier in the presentation, a lot of international candidates find out that we actually have a very nice work-life balance. And the international candidates also choose to stay because they found out that in your first job, the possibility of getting like really high responsibility as a newly graduate is really high, and there's just a lot of possibilities as a newly graduate on the job market. So if you choose to study at DTU, even if you haven't decided whether you want to stay in Denmark or not, we in the DTU Career Center recommend you to learn Danish. As Ollie mentioned as well before, it's not because you can't survive without it, but just socially, it's really nice. And also it will help you a bit if you want to get a job in Denmark, because when it says learning Danish, it shows that you're motivated. So that's what the companies like to see. If you choose to stay, your chances of getting a job fast are pretty good. 1 year after graduation, 82% of our international candidates have a job, and that is very close to our Danish engineers, which is 88%. So yeah, there's a good chance to get a job fast. so you don't have to stress about that. If you choose to stay, most of our candidates, both international and Danish, end up working for big companies. But if you're struggling finding, for example, a student job or a full-time job when you're done, you can also look at the SMEs, the big and the small and medium-sized companies, because there's a lot of them out here in Denmark. They're a big part of the Danish labor market, and there's just less competition, but they also have very nice job offers and responsibilities that you can get there. So that's just a little tip beforehand. So if you want to look for jobs in Denmark, companies often post open positions. They use LinkedIn, but they also use a lot of networking. So 58% of companies use their network when they're looking for new candidates. So networking is a big part of getting a job here, and you will be hearing it a lot when you start here at DTU. It will be mentioned a lot about networking, but don't panic. We here at the Career Center, we are here to help you, and we will introduce you to the skills of networking while you're studying. So there will be events where you can meet companies and practice the networking skill, and there will be workshops where we tell you how to do it. And just a little reminder that network can be a lot of things. It can be your professors. It's very common to ask your professors if they know somebody that have a student job open, or relevant companies. You can talk with your fellow students and, for example, your roommates from your dorm, or the ones you're playing football with, or whatever. So another important thing when looking for a job in Denmark is what companies value when they're hiring newly graduates. And of course, it's your degree, what kind of specialization you have. But also on the second and third place, it's project collaboration and student job. And I don't know if you have noticed it, but grades aren't on the top 3 of the values that companies choose. So instead, it's experience. So what we recommend is get as much as experience as you can while you're here. Both it can be project collaboration, thesis collaboration, or student job. Both is study relevant, but also not study relevant is always nice and good to have, and will help you. Yeah, and another little fun fact is that student job is very common here in Denmark. Most students have 10 to 12 hours every week where they work, either in a cafe or like more study relevant. And that will actually help you to get a job when you graduate. As you can see here, the more hours you work, the more are your chances to get a job after graduation. So that's also why we highly recommend you to get a student job while you study here at DTU, and we will help you with that. And just a little fun fact is that many Danish companies choose to hire their student assistant when they graduate. So that can help you a lot. And that leads us to what we do at the Career Center. Because of course, it's a new country that you're coming to. There's a lot of things that you don't know, and different ways of doing things. So that's why we're here to help. We have some overall career services. For example, personal career guidance. We have workshops and events, and networking with companies. On the personal career guidance, we, for example, give feedback and guidance on all career matters. And we have, for example, drop-in every Monday, and you can book an appointment every Wednesday. So there's plenty of opportunities to get help with CV, cover letter, if you're about to have a job interview, or whatever you like. And then we also have digital on-demand career support. that you can access anytime as long as you're a student here at DTU. And here you can find tutorials, guides, videos on how to do stuff, and quizzes, so that you always can get some help if you need to. During your studies here, there will be a lot of workshops and events. We have our D2 Career Week, which is actually in 1.5 weeks from now. And that's a full week kind of festival with a lot of career opportunities where you can meet companies in different settings. For example, you can have one-on-one meetings. There will be company fairs, company presentation, and all the time the possibility to network with those representatives. During the semester, there will also be events, smaller events, with workshops, for example, where you dig into a specific topic with a company. Career nights, which is kind of fairs, and just networking events. And some of the companies that are often represented during the semester is those ones that you see in the bottom here. We also have external experts that come and tell you about how to get a student job, how to set up your LinkedIn, alumni talking about how they did and how they managed to get a job or student job. So a lot of inspiration to get. And lastly, we also have cultural newsletters, because in the Career Center, we think that staying in Denmark and living in Denmark and feeling comfortable here is not just about study and a student job or job. It's also about knowing the country that you live in. So every month we have a newsletter with ideas on what you can do. And that's free activities, some hidden gems, ideas to weekend getaway trips, and yeah, just different things to see while you're here in this country. Yeah, that's all for me.
Perfect. Thank you, Clara. Yeah, I actually hope that gives people some more ideas about the future, because I know that a lot of students might be worrying about what happens after I finish my studies. And as Clara mentioned, it's 82% in the end is actually getting a job quite fast after their graduation. All right, so we will go over to a student's point of view. So we have invited Monse here today to talk about her experience here. And yeah, Monse.
Hi, I'm a bit sick, so I'm so sorry about it. But anyway, so I'm Monse. I'm coming from Mexico. I've been here for over a year. I'm studying right now the Master's in Biomaterial Engineering for Medicine. And like all of you guys, 1 year ago, well, a bit more than a year ago, I was wondering which university should I go to, what do I want to do with my life. So I know like all the feelings of confusion you're having, and I'm here to tell you a bit more about how I went through all this uni. Basically, I applied to DTU because during my bachelor's degree, I worked with a professor that was also have worked before with DTU. And she told me that if I was interested in pharmaceutical sciences or anything related to biotech, because my background is biotech, I should check out DTU and Denmark. It's like such a huge country with a really focus in sustainability, biotechnology, like all these branches that in some other countries, like in Mexico, we don't talk enough about it. So that's why I decided to check the programs. I found biomaterials really interesting for me. I also really like that the programs of DTU are quite free in a way. Like, of course, you have some mandatory courses at the end of the day, but if you want to specialize in something like really niche or also take it more broad, you can talk with your head of studies and decide on how to organize your program. I think Gurley has some questions that we can talk so it can be more focused, but
Yeah, so one of the first questions I actually wanted to ask is, well, coming from Mexico to Denmark, what was maybe the biggest cultural adjustment that you had to make coming to Denmark and DTU?
Well, I think regarding studies, like a cultural shock for me was like they're not extremely great focusing here in Denmark. Like it's more of like a holistic approach. Like you have to learn and you have to make your own choices. Meanwhile, back in Mexico, it was mostly like result focus, and here it's more like process focus. And at the beginning, I found that a bit shocking because I was used to another system. So it's always interesting for a student to see how other countries work. Also, I could say that you can see that in like all the society aspects in here. People are maybe a bit more reserved than in Mexico, let's say. But overall, it's a really relaxed way of living. Of course, you need to achieve something and you will do it, but you always maintain your balance, like study wise, work wise, life wise in general.
Nice. And one of the questions that we usually get, and I also want to ask you, is how do you cope with the weather in Denmark?
Yeah, with a lot of hot chocolate, I would say. But yeah, I come from a place that is not as warm, but also not as cold as one as Denmark, I would say. Uh, but the way to cope with the weather for me was making friends. Like I was not aware when the sun sets in here. In winter, it sets around 4 or 5 p.m. Like you kind of get lost track of the time and how it works. So what I did was hanging out with a lot of people. Also, I took a January course, which was nice because here January it's a bit of cold and dead in general. So if you're doing stuff, you can say like, okay, this is my life and this is the weather. Bring a good jacket, bring some snow boots, and don't bike on snow. Huge mistake I did, I would say. But overall, it's making connections. Connections with your work, connections with your studies, connections with people.
Nice. So after coming to DTU and as an international student, did you have any support when you first arrived?
Yes, well, I was lucky enough to have some friends that had been before at DTU, like on exchange. So before coming here, I was a bit aware of how it worked. Not entirely because I had never been, but yes. But they helped me sorting some stuff. Also, I would say that the international community in here is quite big and open. So, for example, a lot of prospective international students would have known about Vanita. She's always sending messages and emails on how to apply. She always gives some tips about it, and she has like this chat box with some previous students, and that also helped me a bit. Also, like when starting studies, there's the introduction week, and you always get assigned to a buddy or like a buddy group in where you can talk to other students that are starting the same as you are. So I would say that at the beginning, you will actually feel overwhelmed of how many people are contacting you. And then you can make choices and get along with them and also rely on them.
Great. So if we go over to classes, so how are the classes like? How are the class sizes?
Yeah. For me, I consider them a bit big. It depends, of course, but usually in my classes, it could go from 30 students to 100 students at the same time. They usually last 4 hours and depends a lot on the professor on how he or she will teach the class. But there's like a general structure already, and it's like 2 hours of lecture and 2 hours of project or exercises. Some professors may go 4 hours in lectures, so be careful about that, but that's the general structure of a class.
So how interactive would you say that the lectures are?
I would say it depends a lot. I have had some professors that actually bring, for example, in the biomaterial class, they would bring like some medical stuff for you to touch and see it, and it will be like, think how they did it. Others are a bit more traditionally lectures. I would say if a class is mostly focused on like design, it will be really hands-on. But if it's more of a theoretical topic, in my case, I would say immunology, it was mostly like reading, but still it can be interesting. It's not just seeing a guy doing a lecture for 4 hours, it's mostly 1 hour lecture, 1 hour exercise, 1 hour lecture, 1 hour exercise. Like it tries to be interactive. And if not, at least in my case, the majority of the professors are quite open, so you can approach them and tell them like, hey, maybe I'm not enjoying this. Would you recommend me to do something else to learn from it? But yeah, that's the overall.
Yeah. So we usually try to sell the fact that we are very proud of our group work, and that there are a lot of project-based group work here at DTU. How have you found it?
Yeah, my bachelor's university was also really focused on group work, so I'm really used to that. But I have known that other people, some friends even, have struggles when coming here, because you really need to trust the persons you're working with. And of course, we're all master's level, so we have been doing this for a long time, we know it, but it's always important to have good communication with your team. Not gonna lie, I have had some teams that work extremely perfectly, like so efficient, and some others when I'm always like texting like, hey, have you worked yet already on the project? Could you do it now? But it's something that prepares you for life. Like I have a student job actually right now, and it's mostly group work. Like you would never do anything at a company alone. So dealing with these situations where you need to be patient, where you need to repeat stuff, or where you need to ask for help, it's the base for going out in the industry.
So you mentioned that you have a student job, and so how did you find this student job?
I when I got the acceptance letter from DTU around May, well, before April, I decided to come here. But I said like, okay, I would like to have a job because first of all, something important to have in mind is that Copenhagen is expensive. Like it's a capital city in a Nordic country, it is a bit expensive. And also I wanted to have some experience before graduating for my master's. So since that time, I was looking for a job, like even before coming to Denmark. And during these months that I was back in Mexico, I got an interview. The manager interviewed me, but he told me like he needed someone right now, and I was not in Denmark. So I told him I couldn't do it. And going back to the career center topics that they were mentioning, that networking is a big deal here in Denmark. I decided after the interview, because it was really nice, the manager, I wrote to him in LinkedIn like, hey, I will connect with you even if you didn't give me a job. I really just enjoyed talking with you. And 2 months later, after arriving in Denmark, I was still applying to different positions. And the manager wrote through the LinkedIn like, hey, Montserrat, like, are you still looking for a position? Because we have just one student job open. And I remember having the interview with you, and I remember you wrote me, so maybe you could apply. And he wrote to me like 7 a.m. I replied 8 a.m. We had an interview at 12, and at 3 p.m. I received a contract. So it's more about you doing your stuff, applying, like a lot of time. Of course, it's gonna take time. I was lucky, but it was because I did it even before I arrived to Denmark. So if you're really sure you're coming to Denmark, that would be a piece of advice. Like start looking for jobs online. Maybe you won't get them, maybe you will get them, but at least you will get used to the flow of how applying to a job is in here.
And don't forget to go to Clara if you also need to find
Yeah.
a job, right? So I have the one wrapping up question to you, Montse. So we talk a lot about work-life balance here in Denmark. Is it true? Does it work?
I would say yes. Like, of course, it's difficult because, like, studying and working and having a life, like, that's, I think, the most difficult thing you would find you will have to do. But it's possible. People are really open here. You can always go to your boss and say, like, hey, these 2 weeks, I'm really stressed. I'm having a lot of work. Can we just, like, lower it a bit down? And they will, I would say, I have never been said no, but they would probably say yes. Also with professors, but also most importantly, also with all your classmates. The majority of us are like on the same boat, working and studying at the same time. So we know how to deal with that. You get support from everywhere. And at the end of the day, I think this is a society that really focuses on your well-being. So yeah, I think it's true. It's difficult sometimes at exam seasons. You're like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? But 2 weeks later, it's over and you're back home and it's like, okay, it's worth it. I enjoy it.
All right, thank you so much, Moze, and I hope
Thank you.
that gave some more perspective as well. I will continue just to kind of wrap things up a little bit as well, so we have time for questions and answers. So if you're not convinced yet to apply to DTU, some other reasons why we do think that you should choose DTU is, of course, our university campus, our research facilities, the dynamic student environment, innovation and sustainability, again, the close collaboration that we have with the industry, the buddy system that we have in the start of every year. We love sharing knowledge. We have project-based learning, a flat structure, which is really important to mention, is that when you do speak to your professors, you don't say, "Hi, excuse me, professor." You just use everyone's first name here. So everyone is on first name basis, and it really makes a difference when you speak to each other. Flexibility when it comes in designing your study plan. This is something that we also value here at DTU. It's like if you are not an 8 o'clock person, you do not need to go to an 8 o'clock class, right? So sometimes you will be able to manage classes in a way that suits you. And of course, we have a diverse international community with students from around the world, and not only students, but our staff as well. We have a big, international group, a group of international staff here at DTU as well. So when it comes to the costs and fees, for the tuition fee for non-EU citizens, it is 30,000 euros for 2 years. So that is 7,500 euros per semester. The cost of living per month is approximately 1,200 euros. We know that this is a lot. However, you do also get student discounts that are available on public transportations and restaurants. And as Monza also mentioned, she got a student job. And as a non-EU citizen, you're also allowed to work as a student. You can work for a maximum of 20 hours per week. But in June, July, and August, which are the summer months, you can actually work 37 hours, which is a full-time, which is equivalent to a full-time position here in Denmark. When it comes to DTU fee waivers, DTU does give a limited amount of waivers per year that you can apply for. They are merit-based and only for the autumn intake, just so you don't end up applying for a spring intake and do not get a waiver. When it comes to national scholarships and fundings, we do work with different scholarship organizations around the world. Some of them are listed on our website, dtu.dk. If your country is not listed, it doesn't mean that you don't get to use a scholarship, but then you might have to look for a national scholarship in the country where you currently are residing. Admissions requirements. You need to have a Bachelor of Science in Engineering, or a Bachelor of Engineering, or a Bachelor of Natural Science from an internationally recognized university. When it comes to the admissions, the English requirement is IELTS 6.5. It does not mean that every part of your IELTS needs to be 6.5, but the total overall amount needs to be 6.5. When it comes to TOEFL, it's 88, and Cambridge Advanced English is 180. So I'm rushing through so we have time for questions. When can you apply? Well, the application opens for non-EU citizens for next year on this November 15th. So it's coming up soon. And it will close on the 15th of January in 2025 for non-EU citizens, and on the 1st of March 2025 for EU EEA citizens. However, we are quite strict on when it comes to our application times, so I will advise you to apply as early as possible. How do you apply? You go to our website, dtu.dk. You will be choosing qualifying degree acquired outside of Denmark, and then it will give you step by step how to apply to our university and to the program which you are interested in. All right, so here we are. Questions, and I see that there's a lot of questions that has come in. We have also invited our colleague Zina here to support us in answering questions.
Yes, indeed, and that's where I come back in as well, because I will read out the questions. So because it might concern other people as well, they might have a similar question. Just to point out also that if we don't answer your question, it might be because it's a personal situation and only concerns maybe you or your background. It will, however, be sent through to the staff of DTU so they can come back to you. Okay, just to make sure. And secondly, also just to make sure, if you would have to leave at some point, please do let us know the feedback via the polling. So I think most of you already did, but just to make sure. All right, let's start with the questions. There is a question I'll take the question from Carolina about student accommodation. How does it work? As I read something online about only being able to stay in one of those for a year maximum. Is that true?
Thank you so much for that question.
You can
and
say
I
something about students.
Yes, and
Yes.
I fully understand that student accommodation can sometimes be something that you can be a little bit stressed about when you're choosing to do your degree abroad. The way it works is that there are sort of two ways that you can apply for student accommodation. You can either apply for it on your own, or you can apply for it through BDTU, which is the DTU International Student Accommodation Office. If you apply through BDTU, they typically do it on a 1-year contract, which is, I think, what you're hinting at in your question, but it doesn't mean that you necessarily can only stay there for a year, because it's also possible to apply for an extension of that contract. But it's simply to ensure that, you know, we help students when they're first settling in Denmark. But you can absolutely also apply for accommodation on your own if, for example, you would rather live closer to central Copenhagen, if you want to live in shared housing. I'm curious, Mansit, how are you living?
Right now, I'm living in an apartment, but before I used to live in a dorm at BTTU. I would say it was one of my recommendations. So it helps you to meet people and also to survive the winter. So yeah.
Great. Good to hear. Thank you. And we go to the next question. Well, there have been a couple of questions about scholarship. I just want to tackle that one just to make sure. There was talked about fees as well already, but can you say something about the scholarship option? Or is it an option?
Would you take it on
You go, yeah.
Yes,
No,
yes.
you
I can answer the part about use specific scholarships. So we do, as Ali mentioned, we offer a limited number of tuition fee waivers. It depends a little bit on the year, the number of waivers that we have, but it's typically around 30 for non-EU students. And the tuition fee waivers cover full tuition, but you will have to cover living costs on your own. And as Ali also mentioned, they're merit-based. So the way it works is that when you apply to DTU, you attach a separate statement of purpose specifically for the tuition fee waivers, where you explain why you're applying for it and why you're qualified to get a tuition fee waiver. So that's one thing to keep in mind, but also you need to have a strong academic record. It's also recommended that you submit strong letters of recommendation if you're applying for the tuition fee waiver, because that always helps us in getting a better understanding of you as a candidate. Ali, can you tell a bit about the national scholarships as well?
Yes, so for the national scholarships, we do work with different scholarship organizations around the world. Again, as mentioned, we have different scholarship organizations based in different parts of the world as well, in different countries specific as well. So you could look at, let's say if you look at Mexico, we have different scholarship organizations that we are collaborating with, and which you can apply to through it directly as well. And yeah, it's as I mentioned earlier as well, it's that even though those scholarship organizations is not mentioned on our website, it does not mean that you cannot go through any other scholarship organization as well. So yeah, it's really, there's a lot of options for you out there.
Great. Good to hear. So thank you very much for that answer. Next question, Kevin Paul asked, since I'm not from the EU, can I stay in Denmark after the studies?
Yes, you absolutely can. So the way it works is that when you get admitted to DTU as a non-EU student, you will apply for a residence permit, a student residence permit through SIRI, which is the national body that issues residence permits to Denmark. You get a 5-year residence permit, actually. The first 2 years is designated for your studies, and the remaining 3 years are designated for you to be looking for a job. So it's actually possible to stay 3 years after graduation if you want to find a full-time job in Denmark afterwards. And then obviously after that, you can get different types of residence permits based on the job that you get or whichever situation you end up in after graduation. But there's absolutely no stress in terms of having to return quickly to your home country after graduation.
Perfect. Great. Well, good to hear. And I see a thumbs up, so I guess that's answering that question as well. I got also a couple of people asking about the documents that were needed. So there were a couple of people asking about documents specific for the master degree. Well, in computer science, I saw in computer and the software engineering. Can you say something adding to that for the documents?
So in terms of documents, it's common no matter which degree you're applying to a DTU. So you need to submit your most recent transcript of records, needs to be certified from your bachelor's university. If you've already, graduated from your bachelor's degree, that will be your final transcript of records. But if you're still studying your bachelor's degree, you just submit the latest version of it. Then you submit a CV and you submit 2 letters of recommendation. It can be from professors, it can be from a previous work or something along those lines. And you also submit your English language qualifications. Then you submit what's called a mandatory template, which is specific to each program that you're applying to. So if you have 2 program priorities, for example, you need to fill out 2 different of these mandatory templates. And on the mandatory template, you fill out a GPA sheet, which is a combination of your courses, but also something that we call course distribution, which is sort of a pre-mapping of your bachelor's degree for us to get a better understanding of what your bachelor's degree is consisting of, compared to the course requirements for the specific master's degree that you're applying to at DTU. The mandatory template also includes a statement of purpose sheet. So it's a separate sheet for your statement of purpose. In the mandatory template, you should not be attaching a separate statement of purpose unless you're applying for either the honors program or for the tuition fee waivers. And then the last sheet in the mandatory template is an English sheet where you fill out how you fulfill the English language requirements. I hope that answers the question.
I hope so as well. I see thumbs up, so I guess it is. Well, that's good to see. So let me see another question that came in. I think that was answered. Yeah, so Carolina, just adding to the work and study time. Well, I guess it's been answered, but very short. So the classes permit to work. That is correct. I think you even encouraged it, so I would say that is compatible. Yeah, good. Just to get that cleared. So let's see. We talk about. There are a lot of questions that came in now. So yeah, George is asking: is it common for students who obtain a bachelor to go straight into studying the master at DTU? So from the bachelor straight into a master, or is it more common and preferred for people to first obtain some experience, such as working experience?
That's a very good question. It's most common for people to go straight from the bachelor's to the master's. There are people who decide, to do a few years in between their bachelor's and before they start the master's, which is completely fine as well. But most people come directly from the bachelor's studies. That's also the way that it typically is in Denmark for Danish students. That most Danish students go from the bachelor's to the master's degree. There will obviously be those in between that decide to take a few years out to do some work. But it's you can definitely apply right after your bachelor's degree.
Okay, great. Binyam is asking, what is the admission rate and the lowest GPA for a bachelor degree? What can you say about that?
Thank you for that question. So the acceptance rate depends a little bit from intake to intake, but it's typically around 60 to 70% of the applicants get an offer of admission. In terms of GPA, we say that around, you come from all over the world, so you have very different types of grading scales. It can be a little bit difficult to give us, a specific GPA, but we say that you need to have around 75% of the maximum attainable grade in your local grading scale, and that will obviously differ a little bit depending on the type of grading scale you have. In some grading scales it's very easy to get top grade. In some grading scales, it's almost impossible to get the actual top grade. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Xenia. I think it does, but otherwise let us know. Binyam is asking about, can we get a working permit after graduation? As it was mentioned, it's possible to work. And for how long will the permit be able to stay, basically?
So in terms of the permit, as I mentioned, the student residence permit that you get when you apply is a 5-year permit where you're a student for 2 years, and then you can apply for a job for 3 years for the remaining 3 years of the 5-year permit. In terms of your residence permit, when you then get a full-time job, it will in most scenarios it will be connected to that full-time job. So it will not be the student residence permit anymore, and not it's one that you will then most likely need to apply for when you then get the full-time job. But you can continue working the 20 hours maximum a week for those 5 years. So if you're graduating but you have a part-time job and you're looking for a full-time position, you can keep doing that on the student residence permit.
Okay, thank you. Joanna is asking, she's mentioning she applied in the beginning of the month to your materials and manufacturing master. When could she expect a response? And maybe also for other people that are applying now, even maybe within the webinar, because there is the link on the screen. If you're applying, when can they expect a response, and how hard is it to get accepted?
So I'm assuming that you have applied for the spring intake, since you're mentioning that you applied in the beginning of this month, in which case you will most likely be receiving an answer in November. If it's for the autumn intake, I can just add the way that we do admissions is that we do it on a rolling basis. So we do have some utmost deadlines for when you will receive an answer, but there's also a likelihood that you will be receiving the answer before that. So for the autumn intake, generally non-EU applicants receive their answer by March, sometimes before, but latest by March, and EU applicants typically April or May, and that's because the deadlines are a little bit different depending on your nationality group, which is it's connected to EUs have a different residence card to non-EUs. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
I hope so. And actually, she added that's it would be indeed for the spring intake. So she's asking, actually, are there less available spots than the September intake?
No, it's I mean, there are fewer applicants for the spring intake, but the spots are more looked at for full year for both the spring and the autumn intake rather than per intake. So the likelihood of getting admitted is the same for the spring as it is for the autumn intake.
Good. Next question, Pragatesh is asking, do master students typically do internships in the 3rd or in the 4th semester?
So in terms of internships, internships are not officially a part of the studies at DTU, but it is possible to do an internship. You typically just will not get ECTS points for it. Okay. Also, depending on your situation, if you are non-EU, you need to be an active student for the duration of your of the student residence permit part of the residence permit. So in those cases, you will need to you will need to apply for a specific internship type of residence permit. So at DTU, or at least for the masters, its internships are not connected. But I don't know if Clara wants to mention anything about internship, or at least working and getting some experience while studying.
I think we say the same, that it's not that common to have an internship. It's more project collaboration and student jobs that we have here at DTU, or that students do while they study here. If you take an internship,
I think we were unlucky because her battery was dying out, and then I think that just happened. Unfortunately, I think she notified me about this. So let's get back to that question still. We can come back to later. As mentioned, we have all the questions, so don't worry about that. Next question from Pragatesh. Which one hold more importance for the admission committee, a research paper or industry work experience?
So what we look at in admissions is actually mainly your bachelor's degree, whether you are fulfilling the prerequisites via the courses that you took during your bachelor's degree. So that's what you need to be aware of when you are looking at the degrees and when you're looking at the prerequisites that you need to fulfill, whether you have those courses from your bachelor's degree. Thank you.
Thank you. Regarding, so there's some personal ones I will skip for now, but as mentioned, we can come back to you, so don't worry. So because there are a lot of more personal questions. Yeah, so let's skip that. So Mariam is asking, does applying earlier increase the chance of getting accepted, and applying near the deadline decrease?
No, it doesn't affect the chance of getting admitted, but we do, as Ali mentioned, recommend that you apply early. The reason for this is that we do admissions on a rolling basis. If you apply early, there's a higher chance of you getting an admissions letter early. If you get your admissions letter early, you can begin the accommodation process, you can begin preparing to move abroad. If you're non-EU, there might be some more things that you need to be aware of when you're moving to the EU. So in that sense, we recommend that you apply early and not, 5 minutes before the deadline.
No, we like to plan ahead a little bit, right? Also in Denmark. So that is, do that early. Mariam adding another question. Any advice to increase my chance of getting the tuition fee waiver?
Write a strong statement of purpose. A strong statement of purpose, and also some strong letters of recommendations from your professors or from your previous bosses, something similar.
Good. Thank you. Maria is asking, so I'm interested in 2 masters. If I start one, and I change my mind, can I still switch? That is one question. And the other, as the course is listed on the site as one of the qualified undergraduates, does this mean I have automatic admission, or is it still competitive?
So in terms of, sorry, did you say something, Luke?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think I in terms of the second question, when you have a bachelor's degree from outside of Denmark, there are no specific degrees that are automatically qualified. We look at each degree individually because you come from all over the world, from so many different universities, that it isn't possible for us to select specific degrees that can, be admitted directly. So it's important when you look at the prerequisites that you they're divided. So the first section in prerequisites is for national applicants. That's applicants who have a bachelor's degree from Denmark. The second part is for international applicants with a bachelor's degree from outside of Denmark. And it's very important that you refer to the information for international applicants when you're looking at the prerequisites. I'm sorry, Luke, the first question, can you just repeat that one?
Yes. So the was that other part? Let me look it up. Oh yeah, that's when she asked about switching. If she starts in one
yes.
master but wants to switch to another.
Yes, that is possible. So you can apply for a change of studies, which it works in the way that you still need to fulfill the prerequisites, as in if you were applying, from the beginning, from scratch at DTU, and you can only apply for a change of studies for each semester starts. So you can't change your study in the beginning of a semester, but if you change your mind, you can absolutely apply for a change of study, and if you're admitted to that change of, that new study program, and the courses you've already taken at DTU are relevant to that degree, then you can also transfer those credits to the new degree. Thank you.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Question from Hugo, and I saw some more people asking about GPA still, but Hugo and specifically asked about the admission requirements. On average, he saw it was approximately 75% being a requirement. Is that a strong requirement, a hard requirement, or can I still get accepted if the average is below 75%?
The 75% is an approximate, and that's important to remember. So it might be that you need it to be higher. It might also be that you need it to be, or you can have it lower as 75%, because it simply depends on the grading system that you come from. In some countries, it can be very, very different. In some countries, it's very easy to get top grade. In some countries, they have a grading scale where it's actually impossible almost to get the top grade. So if you have, below 75%, you're still absolutely welcome to apply. We will happily look at your application, and that can still be a possibility that you will be admitted.
Okay. Good, thank you. So again, some more specific questions. So is Antonio, is he eligible for a master in pharmaceutical design and engineering if he has a degree in bachelor in pharmacy?
So Ali mentioned that you need a Bachelor of Engineering, a Bachelor of Science in Engineering, and a Bachelor of Natural Science. So if you have one of those three types of degrees, you're eligible to apply to DTU. If it's pure pharmacy, then I'm afraid it's not eligible, because it's not a natural science or an engineering degree. But if it's a pharmaceutical engineering degree or pharmaceutical technology degree, then you can apply to DTU.
Good, thank you. Getting down to the last questions. Xing Peng is asking, well, a couple of questions, but I think they're important. What kind of stamp can it be for the recommendation letter from school and for work? I don't know if they need to be somehow officially approved, or how does it work?
It's always good if they're certified by whoever recommends you, but it can be a digital signature, it can be a physical signature. We're not too fussy about the signatures on the letters of recommendation, but do make sure that their contact details are on it, and that it's certified in some way. But it doesn't have to be a specific format. It's up to you, and it's up to the person who's recommending and what they prefer to do when they write letters of recommendation.
Okay. And the second question she added is there any special process if she already has a master's degree? So for people that already have a master's degree, do the same process apply?
So if you already have a master's degree, the only thing to keep in mind is that admission to a master's degree in Denmark is based on your bachelor's degree. That's according to national legislation. So that means that when you're then looking at the prerequisites for the program at DTU that you're interested in, you need to make sure that you fulfill them through your bachelor's degree. So if you have any master's courses, they cannot be taken into consideration. That also means that the mandatory template that I was mentioning previously, where you fill out your bachelor's degree courses in the GPA sheet, it should only be your bachelor's degree and not your master's degree. You're welcome to add it as a note that, by the way, I have a master's degree already in this and this field, but it won't be considered in the academic assessment of your application.
Okay, thank you. Hugo is asking about how difficult is it to find housing as a student?
Thank you for that question. So I think it's a bit related to what I mentioned before with the two different ways that you can apply for housing. Welcome back, Clara.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's completely fine. Maybe we can take the question you were about to answer when I finished with this one. So in terms of housing, so BDTU, the International Accommodation Office, they can't guarantee housing, but they do their best to help all new students with finding housing in their first year. I think it depends on how open-minded you also are about housing. If you have an idea in mind that you absolutely want to live in central Copenhagen, then it will be more difficult for you to find housing. If you're much more willing to look at other areas, to look in the suburbs, there are a lot of housing options available if you just keep your mind open to it. Also outside of the International Accommodation Office, if you're interested in shared housing, lots of students live in that type of housing. I think there are many opportunities as long as you just, I think one important thing to note in all of this is that when it comes to student housing in Denmark, it's very common to live off campus. In some countries, students live on campus. You have student housing on the campus itself. BDTU has a few student housing options on campus, but the vast majority of students commute to university. It's very normal to commute to up to an hour to university in Denmark. You commute either by public transport, but you will also find a lot of students commuting by bike. So you will notice there's a very big bike parking lot at DTU. So keep an open mind, and then I'm absolutely sure that you will find some nice housing available for you.
Good. Thank you very much. And indeed, welcome back, Clara. You were cut off in your response to the question. Would you like to continue your answer?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that if you're taking an internship, it's very common to get paid for an internship. So remember that you actually can get money while you're doing an internship here too. That was just what I wanted to say.
That is very valuable information. I'm sure that is very appreciated by the students. So thank you for adding that. One of the last questions actually we have, Dimitris, I skipped this one, but just to be sure, is interested in a part-time online master because I guess he's working as a naval architect and marine engineer. Is there such an option for online or hybrid types of studies?
At the moment, we don't offer any hybrid studies at DTU, and we also don't have online degrees. So you need to be able to come physically to DTU to be able to do one of our master's degrees. But it is, if you are an EU citizen, it is possible to do almost all of our master's degree as industry master's degrees, where you work for at least 25 hours a week, and then you do the master's degree as a part-time study over 4 years. The reason why I'm saying that it's only for EUs has to do with the residence permit, that the student residence permit for non-EUs only allows up to 20 hours a week, but the industry master's requires you to do at least 25 hours a week. But for the EUs, you can keep that in mind as an opportunity, perhaps.
Okay. Thank you. Question from Carolina, just to take also that one still, is, are volunteering experiences also valued in their application?
Yes. Or when you study or when you work, yes.
Yes, I think if it's for work, it's valued. If it's for master's studies, in terms of fulfilling the prerequisites and actually, having the academic qualifications to get admitted, it's not something we really look at because you need to have the academic courses from your bachelor's degree. I would say if you're looking, for example, for the tuition fee waiver or for the honors program, if you're applying to either of those, it might be something that they look at as well. But it's nothing that you absolutely need to do. I think there are some countries where voluntary work is considered valued much higher than it is in Denmark, where it's expected that you do voluntary work. It's not expected that you do voluntary work in Denmark. It's a plus for sure, as Clara mentions, when you're applying for a job that you've done voluntary work, but it's not a must in that sense.
Okay. Thank you. Getting down to one of the last questions. Ram is asking, and maybe that's interesting to still take that one, about the common mistakes students make during the admission process. What are some of those? Can you say something and maybe a general recommendation?
That's a great question. I think we do see some common mistakes. I think not having your transcript of records certified is a very common mistake. Make sure that it's certified by your bachelor's university when you hand it in. Also, mistakes in how you fill out the mandatory template. I think the template can, maybe when you first encounter it, it can seem a bit overwhelming because there's a lot of information that you need to put in. But we do have a video tutorial on the website which shows you and guides you on how to fill in the mandatory template. That being said, if you by mistake upload a transcript of records that's not certified, or you forget to fill out half of the template or what it is, you will get a possibility to re-upload. We will not close your application just because it's missing some documentation. We will send you an email and give you a deadline and say, hey, your application is missing this and this. Please upload it so that we can assess your application. So don't stress too much about it. Do your best, but if you do make mistakes, we will give you a second chance.
That is great to hear. We like second chances. That's always nice. Good. Last question, I promise, because we did get some more questions, but I think they're all important, so and they're very useful and good questions. Rea asked for if you could be able to be in contact with the students that has been presenting, Montserrat, for more information, and I think Montserrat was gladly able to do so. If you like, yes, you can share that. Maybe if it's, for example, LinkedIn or your email, that can be possible too. In the chat, make sure to put it to everyone. Then you can write them that, and they can get in touch. We know that students like to hear from students. It is a great resource to see their actual experience, of course, and Montserrat was. So so great to be available today. So that was very valuable already. But she put also her LinkedIn profile there, and to get in touch. And hopefully that all helps you make your decision to decide to study one of the engineering programs at DTU. We're getting down to wrapping this session up. Couple of things to mention. First of all, if your question wasn't answered, as mentioned, it will. They are sent through to the staff of DTU, so they can come back to you, probably by email, because they have your email as well. So they can still come back to you if, in a personal situation, if you're eligible to apply, those type of questions were still there. That first of all. Second of all, for people watching the recording, I know a lot of people these days do, you can still write questions as well. You can also participate in the polls. So we'd like to hear your feedback, of course, still as well. So do let us know. And regarding feedback, I have a last question on the screen right now. Sorry to block your heads for you, all of your rest, but you can see on the screen a little question of how we did. How do you feel the session was? We like to hear that, of course. We like to know if you felt it was a good session or anything was missing. Do let us know in the comments. Be nice to us, but do by all means give constructive feedback. That is appreciated. And having said that, maybe a last word from one of the staff members to wrap up the session. Well, we've heard Xenia already throughout the whole Q&A. Maybe Ollie, why don't you just wrap it up for everyone? Thank you.
Yeah. Well, once again, thank you so much for attending this session. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out through this medium, or as you could see, we have an admissions email that you could mail to, which is mscadmissions our MSc admissions email. And yeah, we would love to answer all kinds of questions that you have when you are thinking about applying to DTU. And yeah, also thank you so much to Clara and Xenia and Monse for joining this session. And to all of you that's been listening in and are thinking about coming here, you are so welcome to Denmark. Thank you.
Great to hear. Thank you, everyone, as well from my side, for all the presenters, and of course you for the audience. Thanks for joining, and hope to see some of you in Denmark next year. Bye-bye.
Bye.